straight as we can. Sometimes we collide with each other. Who is to blame? And who's gonna fix the boat? Life, oh life, there's nothing to fear from your life. Let me know if I can be of any help. Life, you and I, let's try a fresh start today. What do you say? Let's close the door on the past. So we swim, and it is in so many ways just a little trick to keep our heads above water.
Hello there and
But
welcome
now
to
I'm not
I
afraid
was going to say Draxtor's
anymore.
book club, but it's actually the second
Life,
club. I always
oh
get
life,
confused what's
there's
going on.
nothing.
This is the free-for-all edition where we do sort of casual stuff, but February is also Black History Month, so I do want to talk about one of the greatest science fiction writers, African American science fiction writers of the past. There are several, not several, there are many uh, living ones that are producing fantastic work, but this one is talking about Octavia E. Butler, who passed away 2006. So it's one of the classics, one of the important ones. Um, but I just realized as I'm talking, it's important to note that when we talk about the greatest, we also, I think, always need to acknowledge that there is great work produced right now. We don't want to live in the past, but we do need to acknowledge history and we need to understand where stuff is coming from. So hello and welcome, Little Brett, Shyla, the Super Gecko, Clyde, and Jessica, Jean-Vive, and Valencia Sky Dancer. I'm gonna throw it to you guys in the beginning, and I also want to say I have to be a little quiet. My wife is sleeping in the next room in real life. She's tired today, but why don't I throw it to Shyla, who's smoking a doobie? What are you
Yeah,
reading?
man.
Yeah, man. Uh, I'm going to ask everyone a question. Oh, Moon just came in. What are you reading right now, or what are you planning to read? What are you excited about right now? And let's start with you, Shyla.
Well, I'm reading Infinite Jest slowly, but I'm
Very
getting through
good.
it.
That's actually the main reason why I'm asking because I need to check up on you. I'm your sponsor.
But the most recent thing that's happened is, and I think I told you where I was, Drax, um, is that this father is telling his son the way he opens a garage door is like Marlon Brando, and that he needs to open it a certain way to be graceful, and that's how you play tennis, which is a lot of what this book is about, and how horrible his mother is because she saw Marlon Brando once and fell in love with him, and now she doesn't do the garage door right or anything smooth for that matter. So he's trying to teach his kid a lesson with a garage, and then he brings up this car. It's rather hilarious. I like it. And that's just one little section.
This section is absolutely awesome, and we should say that the father here wants to also kind of make his son into a tennis pro, but the son is very bookish and he always carries a book around. And I don't know if it's that in that section where the father, while he's lecturing his son, constantly say, "Why don't put that book down? Why do you always carry that book around?" And the father talking to his son there is also a kind of a failed actor, and the only gigs that he gets are sort of commercial gigs for, I think, plastic, wrapping paper or something like that. So, Infinite Jest, Shyla, I'm very, very happy that you enjoy it. it's a big book, and we don't need to belabor the point how awesome it is because there have been other instances. Hello, Luella. Hello, Andrew. Please take a seat. Little Brett, do you wanna
Why?
Shyla, yeah?
I just want to say one thing about it. So I was discouraged by the size, and then I started it, and I didn't follow anything. I was pretty discouraged by that. But now I'm into the groove, and it's super fun. So
Yeah.
I'm glad I had patience to get through my own phobias about a book that big.
Infinite Jest can really change your life. I mean, it really is. It is amazing. And let me just add this, Shyla, like I told you, and you told me, oh, I'm kind of concerned, and who wouldn't, with like all these thousands of characters to lose track and everything. And I always recommend don't put yourself under this pressure. The book wants to rewire your brain. It wants you to also um, approach a book in a different way. The book is incredibly structured. There is an incredible logic to absolutely everything. But on the first read, you don't need to understand this logic. You don't need to put yourself under the pressure to understand everything. You can look at it as a whole bunch of vignettes, like 1,000 pages of vignettes of the most awesome characters that you ever read. Or have you read a book where they sell clean pee in Visine bottles for so that the kids pass their drug tests, and it's like a completely um, awesome operation. Anyway, point is, yeah, don't be afraid of big books. Clyde wanted to say something. Yes, Clyde, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I stopped at page 82.
Wow.
I know, I know. And it's still on my bedside table. I will come back to it. I obviously just wasn't in the right frame of mind for it. I mean, yes, it is big. It has very small print, which I found difficult,
Yeah.
but I like big books. And it may be that I'm just not in the right frame. I found, and it may be because it's early in the book, it was a bit, I'm sorry to say this, adolescent male for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I moved on and I rushed through William Gibson's Pattern Recognition, which I enjoyed immensely. It was small, it was lovely. It was a female protagonist. But I have started reading The Parable of Sower,
Mm-hmm.
and I am really enjoying that because I like Octavia Butler. But I'm sorry, I will come back to Infinite Jest at some point. Maybe when I go
Yeah.
on holiday, whenever that is.
I mean, we need to do another Infinite Jest show, and Clyde, you can always I am in our secret Infinite Jest support group. I understand
Yeah.
the point is well taken with, adolescent maybe milieu, if you will, because certainly it takes place in the beginning in this tennis academy with these elite kids who are all
Mm-hmm.
trained to be becoming elite tennis players, and then it shifts to the halfway house. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I can guarantee you that the the depth of the philosophical depth is going to become apparent very, very soon. Um, I don't know what I don't want to put a page on it, but there it does not stay in any way, shape, or form in an adolescent
I think I realised that.
mindset.
I think I realised that, and I usually do persevere with books. And as I say, I haven't thrown it out. It hasn't gone to the back of the cupboard or anything like that. It is on my bedside table, and I will get back to it. It may be just that this is the wrong time. Maybe if I ring it and read it in the summer, it'll have a different effect. You know what I mean? Because there
Yeah,
are different. You read things differently at different times of the year.
absolutely, and it is a big commitment, and uh, if you have the luxury through your setup with work or retirement or whatever your setup is to carve out um, 2 months or something like that, where you know that you can read a little bit every day, that's where I would tackle it. I mean, this is the
Really
part.
encouraged me. Really encouraged me. 2 months. I usually read books really quickly.
You can't
No,
do
I
that.
will.
You
No, I
can't do it.
can't do that. that's the other thing. That's maybe why I sort of gave up on it. Again, my mind isn't set to get that involved in a book. But I will come back to it. I promise you. I promise. I
Hmm.
promise.
There's no obligation. All that I can tell you, it wants you to look at things very differently. I'm also a fast reader, and this book is like a yoga class, and the teacher tells you you can do a headstand, and you say, I there's no way I can do it. And the teacher keeps telling you you can do a headstand, and then you do a headstand, and you're standing on your head, and you go like, whoa, how did this happen? This is what the book is, but it takes you. It's gonna take time. Um, see, I got caught up in Infinite Jest like one of those Bible group guys who's handing out the thing. But let, let, let me just say one more thing. There is an interview with David Foster Wallace in from German with a German broadcaster. If you Google David Foster Wallace German interview, it's a 1 hour plus interview, which is absolutely amazing. We talked about it when we had all the translators here, and the Greek translator Kostas Kaltsas talks about it, how the book meant so many things in different phases of his life, and he referenced that interview. And David Foster Wallace talks about what he wanted to do, and the book is about modern life and the hollowness of modern life first and foremost, um, and how we deal with it. It goes much deeper than that, but the franticness and the hollowness of modern life is what he wanted to not only depict, but he also wanted to give you medicine to heal from that through this book, basically. Anyway, now we don't have any more time to anybody else ask any questions. Oh, okay. Little Brett, what are you reading? Little Brett.
Well, I just finished a book, so I I just downloaded Jessica's book, The Tales from the Cat Shop. So I'm gonna start reading that one.
Mm-hmm. Very good. The University Cat and Moon. What are you reading?
Sorry, yeah. Now, I'm reading Der Spurensucher by Marc-Uwe Kling. It's only in German.
Hmm.
And I'm also pending on The Trees by Percival Everett.
Very cool. Percival Everett is absolutely amazing. I have several of his books. Yep.
Yeah, and the thing is that, like Clyde, I have a really, well, not like Clyde, but I have a really busy job. So I'm very fond of like literature, like Marc-Uwe Kling, that I can read and don't have to think about it. I like to read, so and I like his novels, and I like him as a. I like the Kangaroo Chronicles and the all the yeah. I like his humor, so that's for me. It's like really uh yeah, like not a guilty pleasure. It's not like that, but it's easy to read, and I don't have to think about it. I just have the time to
See, Moon,
relax.
this is exactly what David Foster was, and Ulrich Blumenbach, the translator, said as much when he was here. This is what Wallace attempted with Infinite Jest, because he saw modern life and primarily um, how capitalism forces people into basically inhumane conditions day in day out when they have to when they have to earn a living as wage workers.
I love my job. Don't get me wrong, but
Mhm.
it's I'm like a CEO of a cultural institution, and so I have a lot. Uh, I have to read a lot of stuff in my job as well. So I'm happy about getting my head sometimes relaxed. So
Mhm.
uh, So
Maybe I
I have a
shouldn't.
lot
Maybe
to
I
do
shouldn't have.
work with my head.
Right. Maybe I shouldn't have phrased it that that the Infinite Jest tries to only help people who are stuck in bad jobs, because the worst is when you love your job, according to Wallace, because then literature and high literature, or so-called difficult literature, is the first thing that's being tossed aside. I'm not accusing you, Moon. I'm not judging anybody. That's just what he attempted to kind of hit home, that the importance of art as something that is not there to relax you, but something to disturb you, as a matter of fact, and therefore then create empathy in the long run. But we have that discussion with all the translators on the channel, which was a
Yeah.
wonderful show. We're going to bring him back. Um, Valencia, you want to say something? Anything what you're reading?
Um, right now I just moved to this house. I was so my books are all in the box still
Yeah,
in my closet. So, but I was downloading Jessica's book right now.
nice. See,
Uh,
now you have something to read, to download and read.
and then Amazon, I have the thing on my Kindle. I can browse things and stuff on my iPad.
It's tough when
But
the stuff is in boxes. I have PTSD with two boxes that I never retrieved, which were stored at a ex-girlfriend's mother's house in Orange County, California, and I actually mm, uh, we well we met again through actually a Second Life artist, weirdly enough, 20 years or 30 years after we broke up or something, and we did there was no big fight, we just broke up, and I remember I said, "Hey, do you still have those boxes with my books at your mom's garage?" And she says, "What? No, of course not." And I was like, "Damn." But there was one book with Pantao. Moon knows what I'm talking about. Pantao, a TV show for kids. I had the book, but anyway, you know how this is um, when you lose books. Okay, here's Gap and Scotty Numbers. I don't know if Scotty Numbers is related to Kippy Numbers. Maybe he's his brother. And Andrew, does Andrew or Luella, don't wanna put you on a spot. You guys are new. If you want to talk about what you're currently reading, you can also put that in text. There's no requirement to use voice actually. Luella's typing. Valencia, are you related to my ex-girlfriend's mother in Orange County?
no, I'm not related to anybody there. But
Okay.
I lived in Long Beach, and I was actually
Hold on. I'm
like,
sorry to interrupt you because we have these two new people and they don't know how to talk. You hit the speak button. Um, Andrew is reading The Ire Affair by Jasper Fjord. And Luella, you have to hit the speak button if you want to talk. Before I forget, because Moon mentioned Percival Everest and Erasure, which was adapted as American fiction, which is a terrible film. Here I said it, and one of my favorite podcasts called "This Is Revolution" podcast with Jason Miles. Um, they're dissecting why the film is so bad and why and what they did to the book. So just Google "This Is Revolution" podcast, American fiction. I just listened to it this morning. It's really, really good. It's a really good critique of a movie that kind of destroys the whole class aspect that Percival Everett was trying to do with Erasure. If you're not familiar with the story, it's basically about a professor who gets really kind of pissed off that somebody makes a lot of money by writing a novel in sort of black vernacular, and then he does the same, and he creates like a fictional character and just makes up sort of um, poor a poor black milieu, although he himself comes from a upper middle class black background, and then he gets found out, and so on and so forth. And there's a lot of in Percival Everett's book is a lot really deep analysis of class issues of different strata within African American society. And the movie, apparently, which I haven't seen and I won't, is completely ignoring all this kind of stuff. So, Luella, if you Luella wants to.
Hello?
Hello, Luella.
Hello, it's so nice to meet all of you. I've been meaning to stop down here since like the second week on Second Life,
Awesome.
and I haven't had a chance to before this.
This is amazing. We're very glad that you found us. We're not a cult,
Me too.
but if you're not reading, we're gonna abuse you, report you with Linden Lab right now. No, I'm just kidding.
Thank you so much for having us. This is my boyfriend Andrew, and yeah, we're just really excited to be here and listen. Thank you.
Awesome. Welcome again, Scotty and Gap. You wanna talk about what you're reading? You don't have to, but you can. And yeah,
Can you hear me?
yeah. Hello, Gap. Go ahead.
Yes. So I just want to say that I just started Infinite Jest
Oh my God.
a few days ago, and I'm only on page 40 or something like that.
Mhm.
But yeah, it will be exciting, and it's thanks to you, Drax, that I'm reading it.
Gap, I'm telling you again. See, this is how you sidetrack me if you start talking about it then 3 hours later. But the thing is with Infinite Jest, it is incredibly transformative. Shoot me an email, Gap, and I'll put you into the Secret Infinite Jest reading group. And we have four book club islands, as you know. We have four islands, and one of the problems is the fourth island is not connected to the three. The three are connected, and the fourth one has an the Infinite Jest set where we had the four translators on, and it has a lot of fan art. It's like a little tennis court. It's very small. It's like just a floating skybox, but it's really cool designed with lots of fan art of the characters and stuff. So, Shyla, if you happen to have the landmark, maybe you can put it in if you could put it in local, not, you put the group join, but I'll put the landmark in local. I need to connect the fourth island. The Infinite Jest set is really awesome, um, and it's great that Gap is already on page 40. So he made it a little in, so that's good. And
Excuse me.
yeah,
Oh, I didn't want to interrupt, but I forgot to talk about what we're reading right now, so I will do that after you're done.
yeah, please, no, tell us now.
Oh, it's actually kind of exciting. We read to each other. We know each other in RL, and I've been reading The Ground Beneath Her Feet by Rushdie,
Oh, awesome.
which is one of my desert island books.
Hmm.
And Andrew has never read it, so I'm reading that to him, and he's reading a couple of YA novels to me because we both enjoy a broad range of books.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'm very excited to find new reading ideas from this. So
That's
this will be cool.
fantastic. I have to put this on. I need to read more Salman Rushdie myself. And since you mentioned
Yes.
YA, I mean, people know, I don't know if you know this, but the YouTube channel has now about 120, maybe I'm exaggerating, maybe, but yeah, it probably has about 100. But I mean, we've been doing this for 4 years now almost. And so we had a lot of YA authors on. So if you browse the
Oh,
YouTube playlist, it's all linked in the group description. If you browse the YouTube playlist, you'll find a lot of really interesting YA authors, and all sorts of different authors. I mean, like really across the
great.
board. Because the one thing that I try to do is really in the beginning it was first come first serve, but then
Hmm?
the thing that unites everything is that I find it interesting, and I also have a kind of an eclectic taste, I think. Um,
hmm
so yeah, that's cool. Now,
I have
yeah,
one very quick question.
yeah,
Both of us are writers, and are there also writing events?
yeah. You have to. Um, you can message me if you have an announcement or if you want to talk about something in our free for all format this way
Oh,
here.
I'm talking about like open mics, like community
Yeah,
events. I'm not looking for promotion right now, but if yeah, like open mics or readings or whatever.
there has to be a lot in Second Life. You have to look
Okay,
and
There,
ask
there
around.
is a lot.
There is a lot. There's tons. Not so much
great.
here, although I try to. We tried a little bit the reading, like right, Jessica. We do like a little reading at this format, the free for all every once in a while. But Luella, there are places that are dedicated exclusively to to Second Life writers, to critiquing and reading. And actually, there's a Second Life writer, Lori Holuta, CJ writer. She's on YouTube right now, and we had her on. She's a fantastic writer. I don't know if she knows anything that's going on in Second Life, but there's tons listed
Great.
in the
Great.
events
Well,
list.
thank you so much.
And let me just say to the viewers, because normally people know that I have a much more lively personality, but I try to tone down my voice a little bit because my wife is already sleeping next door. So I have to be a little bit quiet. Hello, stranger. Now, Jessica, tell us about your new stuff and about the giveaway, and then we're going to go into Black History Month because, frankly, I'm tired of white people talking. Oh, wait,
Oh, sorry.
I'm talking about
Here
myself.
I am. Okay. I'm Jessica Genevieve, and you should all have a note card. Next week is a giveaway on Amazon. Sorry, it's only on Amazon. It is technically the first book in the series. It's my favorite. It's called The University Cat, A Tale for Grown-Ups and Graduates. It is set in Sydney University, where I worked, and has lots of friends. But basically, it's the story of Penny the Cyber Cat, and she's just arrived in the real world, and it's dangerous. And there's all kinds of characters. There are professors, museum curators, academics, and 3 gargoyles who are stalking the cat, and they're going to eat her. Meanwhile, there's about to be a university dog show, and the dean and some of his colleagues are trying to stop the professor from winning the dog show. There are paparazzi, there are fashion models, and a modelling horse, and a fashion designer. Most of these people are real. They're real life people. They know who they are, and they love being written about. It's got everything. It's magic realism. It's got a little romance. It's got adventure, and it's funny, and it's my favourite. So next Wednesday, the 14th of February, it's free on Amazon for 1 week, and it's a full-size novel. And I hope you'll all get a copy. And if you don't read it, pass it on to somebody else. But there it is, one of my books. There are 2 more in the series after that, and another one. I'm about 5,000 words in, so another one is coming. And the Cyber Cat has turned out to be a bit of a hit. She's in the top 100 in very strange categories. But it's going very, very well. So just to tell you, I'm a self-published author. So I write, I edit, I do everything. I publish, I do my own website, I do everything. So I like to give you all a free book. If you subscribe to my website, Then you can get the prequel, the Tales from the Cat Shop, which is set in Second Life,
Mm.
and that's free for you to download. There's also a short story, and if you're Dutch, the short story is also in Dutch.
Wow.
And as for Infinite Jest, well, I'm learning Dutch at the moment.
Hmm.
It's, well, it's like being strangled, really. I'm finding it very, very hard to say.
Hmm.
Um, but it doesn't leave me with enough bandwidth for a big book. So Infinite Jest is being sat on by the new kitten who has just arrived. And he's called Mr. Darcy, of course. And he's sitting on either the Infinite Jest or Ulysses, both of which are tucked away until I have enough bandwidth for it. Anyway, that's all I
Jessica.
need to say.
Oh God, Shyla, we're the only
What?
two people in this room that think Infinite Jest, this whole meme that it's so difficult. It's just a weird meme. No, Jessica, thank you, and I, I'm joking. I'm not here to force anything on people. It's just yeah, it's just a transformative experience, and yeah, it's a big commitment, but it's a masterpiece. You don't
I
know.
even have a section for transformative experience books.
Yeah.
I've got a little pile of them. But you find when you're writing, morning is writing, afternoon is marketing, editing, publishing. Um, you don't. Oh, and then Dutch. Uh, 2 whole days of Dutch every week. There's not enough left in your head for, for anything else.
Oh, absolutely. But that's exactly what the book is about. The book is
I
is
know.
kind of about that malaise. I'm not saying, that the
Mm.
book is like, oh, you guys are all fools. What are you doing with your life? I have the answer. That wasn't Wallace's intent. He describes a condition of modern life. Luella says it's not that it's hard, it's that it's bleak. It's people who say gravity, rainbow, blah blah blah, when it's really just the characters are unrelentingly grim. Uh, Luella, that's interesting. I find nothing as life affirming as Infinite Jest, to be honest. Gravity's Rainbow is actually on my list. Um, but Infinite Jest to me is incredibly life affirming. And the main reason is because of the empathy of Wallace, that the way he there like I said in my introduction when we did the Infinite Jest show with the translators, which I highly encourage you to watch on the YouTube channel. um, I said something like the book is about depression, it's about suicide, it's about sexual abuse, it's about animal abuse, it's about dysfunctional families, and it's the funniest book with the biggest amount of empathy that I've ever read in my life, because it's so real. And I can completely understand. I gave this book to a friend of mine for a birthday 4 years ago, Infinite Jest in German, Unendlicher Spaß, and she was struggling with depression. And I was kind of, I admit, I was very clueless. I gave her the book for her birthday and I said, "You gotta read this book. This is so awesome. There's a radio show host. Her name is Madame Psychosis." And she looks at me like she wants to kill me. Or like, you know what? F you and your stupid book. I mean, I'm glad I'm able to get up in the morning. So, but the interesting thing is when you get into the world of Infinite Jest fans, and I'm in a few groups, and there are people in their 20s, early to mid 20s, who say that the book saved their lives, and I completely understand it. I mean, I'm 53. I read it the first time I was 47. So I can relate to some of the things, but they're far in the past, so I'm not in, immediate danger. But these quote unquote kids who read this told me that they were in a really bad place, and the book saved them, and I can completely understand why. And the simple answer is empathy, and the empathy that exudes this these these characters, the down and out people, um, that's what Wallace poured his soul into each one of these thousands of characters, and he didn't make it, as we know. I mean, he could not live even with the help of his own medicine. Um, no, AI, of course, AI cannot do that. The big danger with AI, apart from predictive policing and all this shit, and the real danger in the political sphere is that the delusion that these tech bros have is that it can um, create art. But when we don't, I mean, there's a bunch of things we talked about this, Shyla, right? Um, that we as human beings also need art, or we need to create things in order to be in touch with our humanity. And when we fall under this complete delusion that we can outsource this to the machines, then we're gonna be dead. That's just gonna be the end of it. Um, so yeah, sorry, Luella.
So I have to confess to
Yeah.
building an AI chatbot of my own called the Cybercat Companion.
Oh,
And I'm going to be launching that. And what it has done, it has read all the Cybercat series, and it will the bot, who is Jessica, will answer questions about the novels. And I'm going to be putting up the links to that very soon.
Jessica, that is very cool. Listen, I'm not, that what you're doing with the available technology in that sense, I think that's very cool. I'm talking about the really delusional, crazy people like Musk, etc., who believe in their
Yeah.
binary, delusional world. Um, and this is very much what Philip K. Dick wrote about in Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? What is empathy? What does humanity mean? I want to respond to Luella because her comment disappeared quickly. I see it here on my other screen. Luella's talking about being childhood trauma survivor, and I couldn't manage the book given that. I completely understand, Luella, totally. And thank you for sharing that because I don't want to come across like, oh my God, if you can't read that, I don't know, you're dumb. I hope I don't come across that way because you're absolutely correct. You're saying not everybody heals the same. Absolutely. And and it was just amazing to me. That's why I'm sharing this, that a lot of people have told me that the book has saved them. That does not mean that I would recommend saving yourself or healing through exposure to the trauma in literary form. Absolutely not. So thank you for sharing that. And I do know people who suggest that and who come across in a sort of highfalutin way of like, oh my God, you of course you need to what? You can't stomach that. That's gonna heal you, and if you don't know that, so everybody needs to know where their boundaries are and how to come to a place of healing. And yeah, but empathy is the operative word. So this wonderful already discussion, and in the beginning I said I'm not gonna talk, but I think my wife had headphones and white noise on in the other room. No, Luella, please don't, please. I, thank you for mentioning that because that's an important discussion. This is in fact an important discussion about that I always have with when people talk about, for example, trigger warnings and stuff like that. I'm all for trigger warnings. I have a lot of friends who say, "Oh my God, you can't stomach that." The, there is a nuanced discussion to be had. Maybe we should have a themed show about that one time. Um, because literature, I agree that literature has to be dangerous, or can be, or should be allowed to be dangerous. But at the same time, to kind of rail against trigger warnings, or what quote unquote trigger warnings, or some sort of way to introduce certain things that may be reigniting trauma to certain people, and then to kind of say, oh, anybody who does that is not understanding what literature's role is. That also is wrong. That's elitist. That's privileged, and all the rest, in my opinion. Um, Jessica says we're making a collection to get your wife earplugs or a hotel room. And I read this, Jessica. You're gonna get free earplugs from a hotel room, like I do when I go to hotels, or I get like pens. Okay, we want to get to Black History Month. I want to say one thing um, real quick, and then we're gonna do Octavia Butler. But everybody said what they're reading. What I'm reading right now, and this is really weird. I'm reading Philip K. Dick's Valis trilogy. If you are not familiar with the Valis trilogy, if you might be familiar with Philip K. Dick. I'm not going to go into his biography. He's one of the greatest science fiction writers that ever lived, I think, and he was the first one, I think there's no dispute, who described technology not in a shiny, wonderful, everything, all technology will save us type way. He was really, really outside of the mainstream when he started writing in the mid 50s as someone who wrote of technology not as the savior, but as something that could be scary, that could be very weird, and certainly has to be not has to be well looked at with skepticism. So Philip K. Dick had an event happen to him in 1974, and this is the weirdest thing. It happened on February 20th, 1974, which is my Second Life Res Day, February 20th, 2007, not 74. But in 1974, he basically had a vision, and you can read up on this. There's a bunch of good documentaries, so I'm not going to get into detail. But he basically had a vision of a entity telling him that he's basically living in the Matrix in a simulated world.
Hi, people. It's me, Scotty.
Oh, hi, Scotty. Hi.
Hi. I speak French.
Oh, yeah.
I speak yes. Yeah, I speak Spanish.
Oh,
Yes, yes.
now you're speaking
But
English. Your English is good.
English, little. I speak a little.
Do you
I
un
speak
do you understand me, or do you understand us, or we're talking too fast?
yes, yes. Little, little. But it's
Ah,
okay. It's okay. It's okay.
you know, Scotty, if you have the YouTube channel at the same time, the YouTube channel is transcribing the voice in real time, and it's actually pretty good. Just as a suggestion. Next time, I
No,
hope, Scotty, you come back and we talk a little bit, or you bring us your favorite French and Spanish books. Maybe you can make a list for us.
yes. Yes, I speak French and I speak Spanish.
Awesome.
Yes.
Welcome, Scotty. Welcome to the book
thank
club.
thank you so much. I am so happy. I am so happy. Thank you.
I thought Scotty's related to Kippy numbers. Okay, so we'll finish this Philip K. Dick story. So Philip K. Dick has this vision. Oh yeah, Moon here. Moon speaks Spanish. Okay, you guys can speak in Spanish. Um, Now, Philip K. Dick has this vision, February 20th, 1974, on my res day, where a weird entity in the form of pink light is telling him all sorts of things, and he struggles with this event in the sense that he doesn't know if he has gone mad, if he took too many drugs, is this a psychotic event, or has he really encountered God, and did God really tell him what happened, or what the nature of the world is, and what does he need to do with this information? And so he wrote he wrote three books where he tries to make sense of this. and they're three very different books. One is called Valisty, the next one is The Divine Invasion, and then The Transmigration of Timothy Archer. And absolutely fascinating stuff. For the longest time, I didn't know that Philip K. Dick was studying theology and philosophy all his life, and it comes out in these three books. They're very dense, and they question the not only the nature of uh, reality, but they're also extremely funny because he's constantly questioning himself and making fun of himself and making fun of people who have cults built on um, the conviction that the world is only a computer simulation like in the Matrix. And so it's really kind of a push and pull, and uh, just incredible. In The Divine Invasion, the main character is in a flying taxi cab and gets pulled over by a cop and for speeding or something. I forget, but something minor. And then the cop realizes that the main protagonist there, Philip K. Dick Stanton, is kind of really crazy. And the cop says, "Do you really think that you are God's father?" And then the protagonist says, "Well, I'm not his biological father. I'm his father in the legal sense. My wife was already pregnant with God." And so it's an incredibly unique, deep philosophical look at and theological look at the nature of the universe, but it's also a spoof of monotheism. Anyway, so that's what I'm reading. Now, let's talk about Octavia Butler. Oh, somebody here in the chat says he had a vision in 1974, too much LDS. I don't know what LDS is. I know what LSD is. But to my knowledge, Philip K. Dick only took one LSD trip, and uh, and that's that. Now, Octavia Butler was an African American science fiction author. She was born in California, Pasadena. She was born 1947, passed away in 2006, and she is probably most known for the book Kindred, which you can see here on the slide that Shyla prepared. Kindred is a book where it's from 1979. It's a novel where a African American woman experiences time travel, goes back to the past, pre-Civil War past, and encounters uh, a slave and the white owner. And she encounters that, and she gets thrown back and forth. And it's a fascinating novel of of an independent black woman of the present. Well, the present when um, Butler wrote this, it gets confronted with the reality of the segregated past. But today we want to talk about, and we want to actually hear, and if you want me, I can actually read a little bit. I was going to play the audiobook, but I think we're fine with the noise. Um, Stranger says LDS is later day saints. The more That's hilarious. But so Octavia Butler wrote a book called Parable of the Sower, and I completely forgot that this came out in 1993. Really fascinating, sort of, shortly after what was proclaimed the end of history, the fall of communism. Only capitalism is in, and we won. The good people won, and everything will be good. Parable of the Sower is a world in economic and ecological crises, and the main character has empathy, super empathy, and I forgot the name of the character. Uh, we'll encounter her shortly, but she and her mother, they are basically in a completely lawless situation, and they're trying to find others, and they're roaming the streets up and down California. Uh, my former town where I lived in Salinas plays a role. So this book is amazing. It's dystopian. Um, and sometimes we talk here on the book club how dystopian fiction can also be, if you will, stifling as sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy. We had Cory Doctorow on many times who has written about this eloquently, where he said, I'm not going to write dystopias anymore because they limit imagination, they limit our ability to imagine better futures. They become sort of, disaster porn, if you will, and then uh, the mind is sort of shut down in terms of thinking about things. Clyde says her name is Lauren, the main protagonist, and I'm looking at the synopsis here real quick. Yeah, she has hyper empathy, the uncontrollable ability to feel the sensations she witnesses in others, particularly abundant pain in her world. So this is a fantastic setup here, of course, that is very real, of the world we live in today. And I read this many years ago, and I also completely forgot that the year this story takes place. Take a wild guess what year this is, where the environmental and ecological collapse happens, and Lauren with her empathy, her hyper empathy, has to deal with this madness. Yes, you guessed it. It's 2024. It's 2024. So, shall I read for the remainder, or do you want to listen to a professional? Jessica's typing. Type quick. Valencia's typing. Clyde is typing. Okay, I mean, what can I do? So many people want to hear me read. Um, so let's do this. Octavia Butler, Parable of the Sower. 1. All that you touch, you change. All that you change changes you. The only lasting truth is change. God is change. Earthseed, the books of the living. Saturday, July 20th, 2024. I had my recurring dream last night. I guess I should have expected it. It comes to me when I struggle, when I twist on my own personal hook and try to pretend that nothing unusual is happening. It comes to me when I try to be my father's daughter. Today is our birthday, my 15th and my father's 55th. Tomorrow, I'll try to please him and the community and God. So last night, I dreamed a reminder that it's all a lie. I think I need to write about the dream because this particular lie bothers me so much. I'm learning to fly, to levitate myself. No one is teaching me. I'm just learning on my own, little by little, dream lesson by dream lesson. Not a very subtle image, but a persistent one. I've had many lessons and I'm better at flying than I used to be. I trust my ability more now, but I'm still afraid. I can't quite control my directions yet. I lean forward toward the doorway. It's a doorway like the one between my room and the hall. It seems to be a long way from me, but I lean toward it, holding my body stiff and tense. I let go of whatever I'm grasping, whatever has kept me from rising or falling so far, and I lean into the air, straining upward, not moving upward, but not quite falling down either. Then I do begin to move, as though to slide on the air, drifting a few feet above the floor, caught between terror and joy. I drift toward the doorway. Cool, pale light glows from it. Then I slide a little to the right and a little more. I can see that I'm going to miss the door and hit the wall beside it, but I can't stop or turn. I drift away from the door, away from the cool glow into another light. The wall before me is burning. Fire has sprung from nowhere, has eaten in through the wall, has begun to reach toward me, reach for me. The fire spreads. I drift into it. It blazes up around me. I thrash and scramble and try to swim back out of it, grabbing handfuls of air and fire, kicking, burning. Darkness. Perhaps I awake a little. I do sometimes when the fire swallows me. That's bad. When I wake up all the way, I can't get back to sleep. I try, but I've never been able to. This time I don't wake up all the way. I fade into the second part of the dream, the part that's ordinary and real, the part that did happen years ago when I was little, though at the time it didn't seem to matter. Darkness, darkness brightening, stars, stars casting their cool, glinting light. We couldn't see so many stars when I was little, my stepmother says to me. She speaks in Spanish, her own first language. She stands still and small, looking up at the broad sweep of the Milky Way. She and I have gone out after dark to take the washing down from the clothesline. The day has been hot as usual, and we both like the cool darkness of early night. There's no moon, but we can see very well. The sky is full of stars. The neighborhood wall is massive. The neighborhood wall is a massive looming presence nearby. I see it as a crouching animal, perhaps about to spring, more threatening than protective. But my stepmother is there, and she isn't afraid. I stay close to her. I'm 7 years old. I look up at the stars and the deep black sky. Why couldn't you see the stars? I ask her. Everyone can see them. I speak in Spanish too, as she's taught me. It's an intimacy somehow. City lights, she says. Lights, progress, growth, all those things were too hot and too poor to bother with anymore. She pauses. When I was your age, my mother told me that the stars, the few stars we could see, were windows into heaven, windows for God to look through to keep an eye on us. I believed her for almost a year. My stepmother hands me an armload of my youngest brother's diapers. I take them, walk back toward the house, where she has left her big wicker laundry basket and pile the diapers atop the rest of the clothes. The basket is full. I look to see that my stepmother is not watching me, then let myself fall backward onto the soft mound of stiff, clean clothes. For a moment, the fall is like floating. I lie there, looking up at the stars. I pick out some of the constellations and name the stars that make them up. I've learned them from an astronomy book that belonged to my father's mother. I see the sudden light streak of a meteor flashing westward across the sky. I stare after it, hoping to see another. Then my stepmother calls me, and I go back with her. There are city lights now, I say to her. They don't hide the stars. She shakes her head. There aren't anywhere near as many as they were. Kids today have no idea what a blaze of light cities used to be, and not even that long ago. I'd rather have the stars, I say. The stars are free, she shrugs. I'd rather have the city lights back myself, the sooner the better. But we can't afford the stars. Chapter 2. A gift of God may sear unready fingers. Earthseed, the Books of the Living. Sunday, July 21st, 2024. At least 3 years ago, my father's God stopped being my God. His church stopped being my church. And yet today, because I'm a coward, I let myself be initiated into that church. I let my father baptize me in all three names of that God who isn't mine anymore. My God has another name. We got up early this morning because we had to go across town to church. Most Sundays, Dad holds church services in our front rooms. He's a Baptist minister, and even though not all of the people who live within our neighborhood walls are Baptists, those who feel the need to go to church are glad to come to us. That way, they don't have to risk going outside where things are so dangerous and crazy. It's bad enough that some people, my father for one, have to go out to work at least once a week. None of us goes out to school anymore. Adults get nervous about kids going outside. But today was special, for today my father made arrangements with another minister, a friend of his who still had a real church building with a real baptistry. Dad once had a church just a few blocks outside our wall. He began it before there were so many walls. But after it had been slept in by the homeless, robbed, and vandalized several times, someone poured gasoline in and around it and burned it down. 7 of the homeless people sleeping inside on that last night burned with it. But somehow Dad's friend, Reverend Robinson, has managed to keep his church from being destroyed. We rode our bikes to it this morning. Me, 2 of my brothers, 4 other neighborhood kids who were ready to be baptized, plus my father and some other neighborhood adults riding shotgun. All the adults were armed. That's the rule. Go out in a bunch and go armed. The alternative was to be baptized in the bathtub at home. That would have been cheaper and safer and fine with me. I said so, but no one paid attention to me. To the adults, going outside to a real church was like stepping back into the good old days when there were churches all over the place and too many lights and gasoline was for fueling cars and trucks instead of for torching things. They never miss a chance to relive the good old days or to tell kids how great it's going to be when the country gets back on its feet and good times come back. Yeah, to us kids, most of us, the trip was just an adventure, an excuse to go outside the wall. We would be baptized out of duty or as a kind of insurance, but most of us aren't that much concerned with religion. I am, but then I have a different religion. Why take chances? Sylvia Dunn said to me a few days ago. Maybe there is something to all this religion stuff. Her parents thought there was, so she was with us. My brother Keith, who was also with us, didn't share any of my beliefs. He just didn't care. Dad wanted him to be baptized, so what the hell? There wasn't much that Keith did care about. He liked to hang out with friends and pretend to be grown up, dodge work and dodge school and dodge church. He's only 12, the oldest of my 3 brothers. I don't like him much, but he's my stepmother's favorite. 3 smart ones and 1 dumb one. And it's the dumb one she loves best. Keith looked around more than anyone as we rode. His ambition, if you could call it that, is to get out of the neighborhood and go to Los Angeles. He's never too clear about what he'll do there. He just wants to go to the big city and make big money. According to my father, the big city is a carcass covered with too many maggots. I think he's right, though not all the maggots are in LA. They're here too. But maggots tend not to be early morning types. We rode past people stretched out, sleeping on the sidewalks, and a few just waking up, but they paid no attention to us. I saw at least 3 people who weren't going to wake up again, ever. One of them was headless. I caught myself looking around for the head. After that, I tired not to look around at all. A woman, young, naked, and filthy, stumbled along past us. I got a look at her slack expression and realized that she was dazed or drunk or something. Maybe she had been raped so much that she was crazy. I'd heard stories of that happening. Or maybe she was just high on drugs. The boys in our group almost fell off their bikes staring at her. What wonderful religious thoughts they would be having for a while. The naked woman never looked at us. I glanced back after we'd passed her and saw that she had settled down in the weeds against someone else's neighborhood wall. A lot of our ride was along one neighborhood wall after another. Some a block long, some 2 blocks, and some 5. Up toward the hills, there were walled estates, one big house, and a lot of shacky little dependencies where the servants lived. We didn't pass anything like that today. In fact, we passed a couple of neighborhoods so poor that their walls were made up of unmortared rocks, chunks of concrete, and trash. And there were the pitiful unwalled residential areas. A lot of the houses were trashed, burned, vandalized, infested with drunks or druggies, or squatted in by homeless families with their filthy, gaunt, half-naked children. Their kids were wide awake and watching us this morning. I feel sorry for the little ones, but the ones my age and older make me nervous. We ride down the middle of the cracked street, and the kids come out and stand along the curb to stare at us. They just stand and stare. I think if there were only 1 or 2 of us, or if they couldn't see our guns, they might try to pull us down and steal our bikes, our clothes, our shoes, whatever. Then what? Rape? Murder? We could wind up like that naked woman stumbling along, dazed, maybe hurt, sure to attract dangerous attention unless she could steal some clothing. I wish we could have given her something. My stepmother says she and my father stopped to help an injured woman once, and the guys who had injured her jumped out from behind a wall and almost killed them. And we're in Robledo, 20 miles from Los Angeles, and according to Dad, once a rich, green, unwalled little city that he had been eager to abandon when he was a young man. Like Keith, he had wanted to escape the dullness of Robledo for big city excitement. LA was better then, less lethal. He lived there for 21 years. Then in 2010, his parents were murdered, and he inherited their house. Whoever killed them had robbed the house and smashed up the furniture, but they didn't torch anything. There was no neighborhood wall back then. Crazy to live without a wall to protect you. Even Robledo, most of the street poor squatters, winos, junkies, homeless people in general are dangerous. They're desperate or crazy or both. That's enough to make anyone dangerous. Worse for me, they often have things wrong with them. They cut off each other's ears, arms, legs. They carry untreated diseases and festering wounds. They have no money to spend on water to wash with, so even the unwounded have sores. They don't get enough to eat, so they're malnourished, or they eat bad food and poison themselves. As I wrote, I tried not to look around at them, but I couldn't help seeing, collecting some of their general misery. I can take a lot of pain without falling apart. I've had to learn to do that, but it was hard. Today, to keep pedaling and keep up with the others when just about everyone I saw made me feel worse and worse. My father glanced back at me every now and then. He tells me, "You can beat this thing. You don't have to give in to it." He has always pretended or perhaps believed that my hyper empathy syndrome was something I could shake off and forget. The sharing isn't real after all. It isn't some magic or ESP that allows me to share the pain or the pleasure of other people. It's delusional. Even I admit that. My brother Keith used to pretend to be hurt just to trick me into sharing his supposed pain. Once he used red ink as fake blood to make me bleed. I was 11 then, and I still bled through the skin when I saw someone else bleeding. I couldn't help doing it, and I always worried that it would give me away to people outside the family. I haven't shared bleeding with anyone since I was 12 and got my first period. What a relief that was. I just wish all the rest of it had gone away too. Keith only tricked me into bleeding that once, and I beat the hell out of him for it. I didn't fight much when I was little because it hurt me so. I felt every blow that I struck, just as though I hit myself. So when I did decide that I had to fight, I set out to hurt the other kid more than kids usually hurt one another. I broke Michael Talcott's arm and Ruben Quintilla's nose. I knocked out 4 of Sylvia Dunn's teeth. They all earned what I did to them 2 or 3 times over. I got punished every time, and I resented it. It was double punishment after all, and my father and stepmother knew it. But knowing didn't stop them. I think they did it to satisfy the other kids' parents. But when I beat up Keith, I knew that Corey or Dad or both of them would punish me for it. My poor little brother, after all. So I had to see that my poor little brother paid in advance. What I did to him had to be worthwhile in spite of what they would do to me. It was. We both got it later from Dad, me for hurting a younger kid, and Keith for risking putting family business into the street. Dad is big on privacy and family business. There's a whole range of things we never even hint about outside the family. First among these is anything about my mother, my hyper empathy, and how the two are connected. To my father, the whole business is shameful. He's a preacher and a professor and a dean, a first wife who was a drug addict, and a daughter who is drug damaged. It's not something he wants to boast about. Lucky for me, being the most vulnerable person I know is damn sure not something I want to boast about. I can't do a thing about my hyper empathy, no matter what Dad thinks or wants or wishes. I feel what I see others feeling or what I believe they feel. Hyper empathy is what the doctors call an organic delusional syndrome. Big shit. It hurts. That's all I know. Thanks to Parasectco, the small pill, the Einstein powder, the particular drug my mother chose to abuse before my birth killed her, I am crazy. I get a lot of grief that doesn't belong to me, and that isn't real, but it hurts. I'm supposed to share pleasure and pain, but there isn't much pleasure around these days. About the only pleasure I found that I enjoy sharing is sex. I get the guy's good feeling and my own. I almost wish I didn't. I live in a tiny walled fishbowl cul-de-sac community, and I'm the preacher's daughter. There's a real limit to what I can do as far as sex goes. Anyway, my neurotransmitters are scrambled and they're going to stay scrambled. But I can do okay as long as other people don't know about me. Inside our neighborhood walls, I do fine. Our rides today, though, were hell. Going and coming, they were all the worst things I've ever felt. Shadows and ghosts, twists and jabs of unexpected pain. If I don't look too long at old injuries, they don't hurt me too much. There was a naked little boy whose skin was a mass of big red sores, a man with a huge scab over the stump where his right hand used to be, a little girl, naked, maybe 7 years old, with blood running down her bare thighs, a woman with a swollen, bloody, beaten face. I must have seemed jumpy. I glanced around like a bird, not letting my gaze rest on anyone longer than it took me to see that they weren't coming in my direction or aiming anything at me. Dad may have read something of what I was feeling in my expression. I try not to let my face show anything, but he's good at reading me. Sometimes people say I look grim or angry. Better to have them think than better to have them think that than know the truth. Better to have them think anything than let them know just how easy it is to hurt me. And we'll stop there. This is the beginning of Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower, and really kind of an important book, very interesting, and goes without saying what I think is always important to read books or be aware of when they were written. This was written in 1993, which I completely forgot up until I prepared today's program, um, because you got to look at the context of what was out there in sci-fi at the time, what the political landscape was, what sort of the main zeitgeist was, and especially in terms of this kind of outlook towards society. I mean, in the visual realm, what this reminds me of is, of course, Carpenter's They Live, John Carpenter's movie They Live, um, which where reality has surpassed it as well. But this this milieu here, from the point of view that it's written or told, that the story is told, is this middle class family, um, and that's a very interesting viewpoint where they have to flee their own neighborhood and are exposed a fairly, maybe a guarded, sheltered young uh, teenage girl is being exposed to the wider world, not only through this condition of hyperempathy, but um, is exposed to this violence and this poverty in this dystopia. So yeah, all right, I'm gonna wrap the show for today, and we are having the next guest is coming in March. The show is our get together is once a month. I'm just saying this because we have new people here, and we used to be weekly, but now we're monthly, and sometimes we are still 2 or 3 guests per month, depending on their availability. So please consult the calendar. Consult the calendar, very important. The next guest is, let me just throw this up here. Where is this? I downloaded this earlier. Oh yeah, I don't have an image for it yet, but this is the placeholder image. Joanne McNeill is coming on March 6th. And Joanne McNeill wrote an amazing nonfiction book. She's a writer and columnist for many publications, and she wrote a book called Lurking about the history of social media, which is a fantastic book. And she was on the show a couple years ago with Lurking, and it's a fantastic book, although it doesn't mention Second Life once. And I know I was teasing her like, Joanne, I really like your book. You know, you really kind of trace the evolution of social media and the utopian beginnings and the dystopian reality, but you don't mention Second Life, so I burned this book. No, of course I didn't. It's great, and she now wrote a novel, her first novel. So that's very interesting. Why do nonfiction authors write novels? I don't know. I think it's good because novels are very important um, ways to create empathy, interestingly enough, right? Maybe a good article or a good nonfiction book can do it too. So let me briefly read. The book is called Wrong Way, and the blurb on the publisher's website is: For years, Teresa has passed from one job to the next, settling into long stretches of time, struggling to build her career in any field or unstick herself from an endless cycle of labor. The dreaded move from one gig to another is starting to feel unbearable. When a recruiter connects her with a contract position at all over, it appears to check all her prerequisites for a good job. It's a fintech corporation with progressive hiring policies and a social justice minded mission statement. Their new service for premium members, a functional fleet of driverless cars, the future of transportation. As her new hire orientation reveals, the distance between All Over's claims and its actions is wide, but the lure of financial stability and a flexible schedule is enough to keep Teresa driving forward. Now, I gotta tell you, I have not read this blurb before, and this blurb sounds a little terrible, but I know Joanne is an extremely talented writer, so the book is in the mail, and I'll read it, and I can guarantee you that we'll have a fantastic discussion. Um, the end of the blurb here says Joanne McNeill, who often reports on how the human experience intersects with labor and technology, brings blazing compassion and criticism to the wrong way, examining the treacherous gaps between the working and middle classes wrought by the age of AI. Now, um, within these divides, McNeill turns the unsaid into the unignorable and captures the existential perils imposed by a nonstop full-service gig economy. Oh my God, that's a terrible blurb, I have to say. This is actually when I read stuff like that, gotta say, I'm happy that I don't have a job to write this. Uh, I know from here, this is more important. Tim Maughan says about this book, a Ballardian tale of pristine corporate campuses and aspirational product marketing. Wrong Way reveals to us the very human cost of the AI future we've already been sold and makes us question how many lies and absurdities we're willing to accept in order to try to feel like we belong here. So, yeah, definitely interested um, in a literary exploration of a world where tech bros, delusional tech bros like Musk, etc., are telling us how to move forward. And as Cory Doctorow often says, AI is at a point where idiotic CEOs believe it is awesome, and that's really the scary part. It's not that AI functions in any way, shape, or form in any type of meaningful, useful way. It's just that people in powerful positions in capitalism believe it can, and that's the scary part. So everybody who is a gig worker or wage laborer has to be very concerned about that. So despite a flawed blurb by the publisher, I hope to see you March 6th because Joanne McNeil is a great writer and she really thinks deeply about this stuff. Okay, that's it, and see you all um, in a month. I'm gonna cut the stream for the folks watching on YouTube, and goodbye.